Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Tokyo on Fire. Today is July 19th, 2017. The Prime Minister's approval rating for the cabinet has really plummeted over the last 3 weeks. I'm joined by Michael Cucek. Michael, welcome back.
It's great to be back.
A lot to discuss today. Let's focus just on the plummeting approval ratings of the Prime Minister in this session and talk about the implications of that.
Well, Mr. Abe has been enjoying just an aberrant stability in his overall support ratings for the past 4.5 years. Mm-hmm. He's had his up and downs, sure, but if you look as compared to other prime ministers, even the great Koizumi, his ratings have stayed stable and high to an extent that has simply not been replicated by Japanese prime ministers.
He's currently the third longest serving prime minister in Japanese post-war history.
If you put together all of his current term in office and his previous one, yeah. Right. He's now a part of history. Right. So he's no longer working toward a legacy. He's got one.
And he really wants to exceed that, actually. He wants to exceed his grandfather. He wants to be in the history books.
He wants to be in the history books, but he's already there.
Right.
And he has enjoyed this ahistorical support level.
And we put this on largely Mr. Suga, his chief cabinet secretary.
That he has had someone behind him to run the government who has been able to make the legislation arrive on time, being able to have the bureaucracy entirely in line, or perhaps even under the thumbs of the government, of the current elected government.
Right, and whip the cabinet into shape to mind your business and let's not get involved in any scandals. It's been relatively scandal-free.
It has been relatively scandal-free. The last 6 months, however, have been a completely different story.
It's unglued, hasn't it?
Yeah, we have scandal after scandal, starting with the Moritomo Gakuen story. Again, small potatoes. An elementary school is built in Osaka. But it was done, the land transfer was done in such a way that it looked terrible, and it, of course, involved the Prime Minister's wife, mm-hmm. who was the honorary principal of this school that will probably never open now.
Right.
Then we had the Kake Gakuen scandal, which is, again, of a school.
Veterinarian school.
Being built, but in this time, it's poisoning not the ground, as in the case of the Moritomo Gakuen, but poisoning one of the marquee parts of Abenomics, which are these special economic zones. Mm-hmm. It's suddenly being built in a special economic zone under special rules and is given a right to be built for the first one in 50-plus years, a veterinary college. Why do we need one? There are fewer animals than ever before. Who's going to be staffing it? All these questions. And as the people pulled on the strings, Abe's suit just basically came unraveled.
The special designated areas, though, they're not normally something that's deeply scrutinized for scandal-tainted offerings, is it?
Well, first of all, since there are relatively few of them, they're very visible. Mm-hmm. And it would be crazy to try to stuff stuff in there that shouldn't be in there because there are special economic zones.
And this one almost got away.
This one almost got away. What happened was that a person who normally would not betray the confidence of the political class, that is to say the vice minister of a ministry.
A career bureaucrat.
A career bureaucrat was forced out in another scandal, the Asen scandal, and collected his pension, collected his bonus, and suddenly began talking about this very, very iffy mm-hmm. Approval. Now, all of these things should be minor. There's the amounts of money. It's not like Mr. Abe received any cash. He didn't. Mm-hmm. It's not as though he or his wife were caught in flagrante or something. They weren't. They're at one remove. Some of their aides...
Favors for friends, essentially.
It favors for friends and leaning on the bureaucracy to do what they can within the law to ease the way.
To accelerate the process. I mean, it's been really a time-consuming thing for both of them.
But for some reason, the people of Japan don't like it. Mm-hmm. The reaction has been visceral against this kind of small potatoes corruption.
Yeah.
And it has cost the Prime Minister 10 percentage points of support in the last month. And he's now entering the danger zone. In between 30 and 20% historically is an area where once a prime minister falls into it, almost never comes back out.
It's almost an event horizon, isn't it?
It's an event horizon. You pass out of the prime minister's office. Only one prime minister in the last 25 years has ever pulled out of it. That was Prime Minister Obuchi, who reached this netherworld death zone, if you want to call it, and then was able to reverse himself. Abe is starting to enter this shadow.
Right.
And the thing is, he's had so much success. He's been so stable. There have been no rivals in the party.
Somewhat Teflon.
The rival party, the DP, has absolutely no traction whatsoever. He's had in control of the bureaucracy. He's had control of the bureaucracy until the Maekawa suddenly broke ranks. But it's all coming undone.
Right. Maekawa broke ranks. I don't think it was an active breaking of ranks. I think he was approached and he just laid out the story, which happened to conflict with what the story was being woven by the administration.
First they said the documents weren't real. Now they admit the documents are real, but that they're not important.
Right.
Sorry, you already said that the documents weren't real. You've already got denial on you. You're not making things better by changing the subject.
Don't you think that the reason for the plummeting approval rating is not because of the two scandals, but because of the way the administration, the prime minister has handled that? I mean, what they have done to former bureaucrat Maekawa was just, I mean, it's shocking to the senses.
Well, they pulled out all the stops, saying that he hung out at
girly bars.
Yeah, and he said, yes, I did.
Sure.
I belong to a single mother's research group that's looking into how young women survive in today's market.
But I mean, people can read that differently. But you know, and I know, we know people who know him. He is a stand-up guy. He's a career bureaucrat. These guys, you know, they graduate the top of their class.
He's from good family. He is perfectly set in terms of the finances. He has no ostensible reason to go against. He has no economic reason to go against.
He's just a stand-up guy. And you're asking me the question. This is what happened.
Yeah.
Right.
And by contrast, government officials, including some currently serving bureaucrats, because they're still under the thumb of Mr. Suga, and also Mr. Hagiuda, who's supposedly the key man in all of this.
Lambast him.
They lambast him and deny everything.
Right.
And when this happened in a special session of the Diet, they called the Diet back from vacation. The regular session was over, but because of the reverberations of this, they had to open up the Diet in special session, and it looked terrible.
This is all televised.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody in Japan can see it, and I don't know if this is true in other countries, but a lot of people are glued to their tubes when these hearings go on.
And the NHK plays them on the main terrestrial channel all day long, and you cannot avoid it.
No, it's nasty to see it.
And it's nasty to see it, and they have had a huge hit.
Right.
That hit is reflected in the internal data of the polling. The real change from anything that's happened before is that Abe is no longer trusted. People who believe in him and his program, there's a core that cannot be shaken. They're the true believers. Okay, fine. But for the 10% of the electorate that's been supporting the cabinet, they have suddenly lost all of their trust in Abe and his program. And it's, again, over these small potatoes issues. Right. But somehow there is deeply ingrained a sense that, yes, you can serve the people who sent you to the Diet, but you do not serve your personal friends at the cost of the taxpayers. And that's what happened. And that's what they've done.
Yeah.
And they keep denying that they've done that. Right. And that makes it just worse. And so in the most recent poll, when asked, why do you not support? And now 53% of the voters do not support, and only in 33, 36%, depending on the polling. In fact, in GG polls, it's down to 29%, say they support the Prime Minister and his cabinet. If you ask those people why they don't, over half is, and it's way ahead of any other reason, over half say,
trust.
We don't trust him.
Yeah.
Him personally. Not his party, the cabinet, him personally. We don't trust him. And that is just flooring the support rating.
That's really severe because there are a lot of other things that are going on that really don't implicate his trustworthiness. For example, the defense minister speaking, off the cuff about, please vote for the LDP candidate because I am the defense minister and I'm asking you to.
And the SD on behalf of the SDF, on behalf of the ministry, please give your vote to this guy in a local election.
Right. They did, there was a call, you should have her resign, you should accept her resignation.
But the polling is definitive. 3 out of 4 Japanese think she should resign. 3 out of 4 Japanese believe that what she said she cannot continue.
Right.
That this is what she has, whatever her explanations are, she has to go. And Mr. Abe is loyal to his friends.
Yes, he is.
Again, there's that loyalty to his friends, forgiving them their sins, which he's paying for.
Okay, in the context of the plummeting approval ratings, he's got to do something. He's looking for any kind of hook to hang his hat. And it used to be maybe the Northern Territories or TPP or this or that, and he's just been searching for it. It hasn't come up.
Yeah, but not even a DPRK ICBM launch could boost his ratings.
You don't think?
It didn't do a thing for him. And it was a huge change. He went to the G20. Well, that was
also in the context of a metropolitan election, too. And there was a lot of fighting going on.
Yes, but that Mr. Abe has always been, sure, he had his Abenomics story, but you knew in the background what he was interested in is security issues.
Right.
That's why we had the collective security decision. That's why we have this conspiracy law, why we had the Special Designated Secrets Act. Right. All of these things for our security. A major change happens, and instead of his ratings going up, they dive.
Right.
Something is no longer working for him in terms of his story.
Okay, what does he have in his bag of tricks? He can shake up the cabinet,
which
we
he's
expect that over the next 2 or 3 weeks.
And the thing is, already we've got an indication that the people don't think there's going to be much change, and that's not going to be helpful. And if he goes through with it, and he does,
he will,
and he will, okay, but he does it, and if his ratings flatline or don't have a significant blip upward, the sharks will start circling him.
They already are, aren't they? Even from within his party, the critics are coming out. Ishiba is being very vocal. He's on the TV and he's criticizing the prime minister himself.
And Kishida,
it's very brave.
Foreign Minister Kishida, even though he's within the cabinet, which has to be a consensus group, he's said things like, well, inequality has increased in the past few years.
Right.
Well, you've been in the cabinet the past few years. You should have done something about it. But he's foreign minister, so he's away from economic issues. He's talking a lot about economic issues.
Yes.
And that's because he can get away with that kind of criticism.
But
and basically he's saying, don't reappoint me, because then when I'm not in the cabinet, I'm going out.
The gloves come off.
I'm going to gloves come off.
And in an analysis of who's going to stay, he's probably going to stay to keep him close.
Well, that's the analysis that's always done with Aso. That with
Aso definitely is going to stay.
Finance Minister Aso, Abe keeps him close because he needs to be within stabbing range.
Right.
Because you cannot trust that Aso. But it's true. And he certainly betrayed Abe's confidence in 2007. Abe came to him after the India trip and said, I physically cannot go on. And Aso said, no, ganbatte kudasai. Keep trying, keep trying. At the same time, arranging so that he would be the next prime minister.
This is such a really interesting and critical time in Japanese politics because there is a lot of movement going on. And if you're tuning into Tokyo on Fire and you're watching these kinds of things, there will be a critical event that's going to happen in the next couple of weeks.
But I think it's going to be a non-event. I think it's the cabinet not leading to a blip upward. At that point, the game is up for Abe.
Well, no, the game is already it's being settled up now because remember that Mr. Aso, he's increased his faction numbers.
He
right?
arranged the merger
movement,
with the Santo faction and a few other members, and they've got a basic agreement that was agreed to last December to let Kishida be the champion, but the Kishida faction is still separate. They haven't done the grand merger.
Right.
Aso has improved his position. He's got a bigger group to bring in.
This is a fabulous chess game to watch.
Yeah, it's a great chess game, and the numbers do favor the anti-Abe faction, because the Abe faction, the Seiwakai, and the Nikai faction are the only ones that are clearly bought in.
Right.
But all the other factions, once Abe no longer looks invincible,
right,
the sandcastle will crumble.
Sure. And it's going to be that kind of epic movement that's going to require a toppling of the prime minister. Would you agree?
And the thing is, the public will be playing a part. And the public have been highly supportive of the Abe cabinet so far. And largely, though at crucial junctures, as in the case of the security legislation, we had actual street demonstrations that really changed the mood, if not the eventual outcome, and gave a sense to the people that they are going to be in control. Here, they will be in control. The polling numbers eventually get to a prime minister. You can either get out by leaving at the end of the term, dying, of course, is another alternative, but the other one is the poll numbers. And if Abe's poll numbers don't pull up, he will not serve that beautiful third term that he's been working so hard to get.
We can't conclude this segment without talking about Tomin First and what the governor has achieved. And she stepped out. She set up this party, the Tomin First Party, and then she stepped out of being the chairman of that party. And I think that was brilliant of her. So she's distanced herself from it. But now you have a local party. It's just basically Tokyo politics. If that goes national, then perhaps a lot of the people who are just really fighting among themselves inside the Democratic Party are going to have a place to go, and just the repercussions are
We should have
fantastic.
a separate discussion about the Democratic Party and its situation. But in terms of the LDP, we saw what Kake did to the LDP on the local level. She tore it apart, not only in terms of beating them in the election, but prior to that, simply had so many defectors and so much division within the local area. And again, it's that that bubble that Mr. Abe has been floating on for the past 4.5 years. There is no alternative. Tina. There is no alternative. And that he is the first prime minister for which this is true, that the most important reason people support him is because we can't see anybody else. Well, now they can.
But people say that all the time. Whenever there's a prime minister...
It's never been the #1 reason for support as it is for him. And it's with an absolute domination. 39% of the people who support him do so because there is no alternative. No prime minister has ever had numbers like that. And there was going to be a comeuppance, a day when when the new kid in town rolls into town. Well, she's rolled in. And suddenly everybody's walking.
Okay, so let's talk about maybe what would happen, what kind of critical event is required to topple the prime minister. What would have to happen? I mean, the numbers plunge. He would have to call, or there would be a no confidence motion. What would have to happen in order for this kind of to coalesce into an event?
It's a hard sell in that normally there's never been a catastrophe that required a turnover. Normally, it's just simply the prime minister realizes he just can't go on. Those around him tell him that. Now, it's true that within the Seiwakai and within the group that surrounds the prime minister, there are a lot of diehards who would rather commit seppuku than ever give up their power. So that he doesn't have around him someone who can reach onto his shoulder and say, Abe-kun, it's time to go.
Okay, but that would require an LDP by-election, an election for the president of the party.
That's right. And there's one scheduled for September of next year.
That's a long way away.
It's a long ways away, but nevertheless, if he continues to decay, the party has to eventually say, look, you're hurting us.
Right.
You hurt us in Tokyo. We're not going to do well in other places. If Kake starts putting up candidates in local elections outside the Tokyo area and they start winning,
right.
That's it for us.
Okay, there are no critical events coming up on the horizon for the next 5 or 6 months.
I would say that the Yokohama City election, the mayor's election there, is an interesting test of whether or not the old style Komeito LDP get together can still hold on. Now, in theory, there's no way that the current mayor cannot continue. She's well regarded. She has the support of both the Komeito and the LDP. There's an age question. She's 71, so there's that issue. But then again, this is an aging country. But she's against two very attractive alternative candidates. If she was against one, there could be a real race. So maybe with having two there, they'll knock each other out. But nevertheless, we look at July the 30th, Yokohama City election, to see what the fallout is. And if indeed there is a revival of interest in those people who haven't been showing up to vote in the last 3 national elections, the floating voters, those folks have been staying away from the polls. If they're suddenly energized saying, yeah, we need something new like we have up north in Tokyo.
I don't know, that's 2 weeks away.
We'll talk.
Okay, we'll talk. But listen, he's going to reshuffle the cabinet come hell or high water in any event, right? And that's going to happen probably within the next 3 weeks. You have the Yokohama election, and then you have the cabinet reshuffling. You're an active tweeter. I'm reading your tweets. I'm following them. You have predicted that it will be a yawn. He'll shift a couple of people, maybe 4 cabinet positions, keep most of the other people in place, and sail along.
Oh, he might do a full cleaning of house. It's still a yawn. All of the really sharp people are already spoken for. And he's going to have to eliminate from the cabinet his best friends. That means Hagiuda goes from Deputy Chief Cabinet Secretary. Whether Suga survives this.
Suga will survive. Why not?
He is tainted by the Kake Gakuen scandal. He went after Maekawa personally.
He won't get rid of Suga.
Well, if he does, then
Justice Minister, yes.
Justice Minister has to go.
Defense Minister, yes.
Inada has to go.
Right.
All of these people who have
Meti.
I'm looking at Seiko. He probably will survive because
Seiko,
he's the Russia specialist. He has that second job.
Right.
But if he has to clean out his friends, so the friends of Abe are not trustworthy. He has to bring in new people, and he's going to either have to keep the faction leaders, people like Kishida and Ishihara, inside the cabinet so that they don't gang up on him. But if he does, they're not going to.
What a difficult job!
It's going to be a hard time. They're going to be smiling at each other all the time with really rictus smiles all the time. How are you doing? Then I'm doing fine. How about you?
You're frenemies.
Yes, there are going to be frenemies in the cabinet, and that's not been the way. And it's been again. Abe has been an aberrant situation. Good chemistry within the cabinet. Long-lived cabinets. People in the same job for a long period of time, and high levels of support from. Unfortunately, the traditional old weakness is coming back.
Right.
And it's because he served his friends first.
Tokyo on Fire, we'd like to dish this up to you. If you enjoy it, please hit that subscribe button. Stay tuned because these issues are not settled yet.